Hello everyone, welcome back to Rockwell Automation series. I will continue to introduce you about Studio 5000 Logix Designer. Next is creating a user-defined data type. To create a user-defined data type to store the members of different data types when programming an application that requires data types that are not automatically created by Studio 5000 application. If a text of user-defined data type will be produced over the backplane or over a ControlNet network, limit the size of the entire user-defined data type to 500 bytes or less. The size is recalculated in the data type dialog box after change and apply. It's recommended to create a new user-defined data type offline. So, step 1. Come to Asset folder of the controller organizer. In the data type folder, right-click the user-defined folder. Then select a new data type. Step 2. In the name box, type a name for the user-defined data type up to 40 characters, include letters, numbers, or underscore. I will name it the analog input. Step 3. In the description box, type a description for the user-defined data type up to 128 characters. I put analog input. Step 4. In the name cell, type a name for the member up to 40 characters, include letters, numbers, or underscore. Example, BV row, it means process value row. Step 5. Configure the member data type. In the same row as the name cell, click data type cell here. Click on three dots. In the data type list box, select the type of data that the member will store. Example, real. To create an array, in the dim0, type or select the number of elements. Okay. Step 6. In the description cell, type a description of the member up to 512 characters. I put row for process value input. And then press enter. Okay. Step 7. At the right side, to change the external access of the text in the properties band, click the external access cell. And then from the drop-down list, select an external access type. I select read or write. Step 8. To display the data in a different style for that member being created. In the property pane, click the Style cell, and then from the drop-down list, select the new style. I select float. A user-defined data type can have up to 500 members. Step 9. I will create more 4 members: BV Romin, BV Romax, BV EU Min, and BV EU Max. With the same type is real and external asset and the style. BV Roaming. Real. Raw process value min limit BV raw max view copy max BV EU min. EU here is engineering unit. Real. Step 10. Click on apply. Step 11. Click on OK. Next is adding an Ethernet IP module to an I/O configuration. To add an Ethernet IP module or several modules to a project, step 1, we need to gather the information of the Ethernet IP modules you are adding. The first one is chassis location and slot number. The second one is IP address. The third one is the size of each chassis. The final one is the type of I/O modules in each chassis. The step 2, decide if any Ethernet IP modules should use a rack optimized connection. If the module is in the remote chassis and the chassis has a standard digital input and output modules, no diagnostic modules, or mostly fused output modules, then we need setting in the rack connection is rack optimization. If the modules is in the remote chassis and the chassis has analog modules, the diagnostic digital modules, few output modules, or multiple communication modules, then we don't need the rack optimization. If the modules is in a local chassis, we don't need the rack optimization. Step 3. Next is setting Ethernet IP modules need a time sync connection. If this module will connect to motion control drive on the network or synchronize its clock with the master clock on the network, then need to set the time sync connection. If else, don't need. Step 4. Decide how to add your Ethernet IP modules. If the Ethernet IP modules are installed and you are on site, then browse for an Ethernet IP modules. If the Ethernet IP modules are not installed or you are offsite, then manually add an Ethernet IP modules. In this video, I share you how to manually add an Ethernet IP module. To manually add your Ethernet IP module to your controller's I/O configuration. Step 1. Is the local Ethernet IP module for the network already in the I/O configuration? If no, then add the local Ethernet IP module first. Find the local backplane in the I/O configuration folder of the controller organizer. Here, 1756A10 backplane. Right-click the local backplane and click New Module. In the searching box here, type EN2T and select the module 1756 EN2T. Then create. Now we fulfill the properties of this Ethernet module. The name we type Ethernet 1. Description we type Ethernet 1 EN2T. Why I type EN2T? Because we have another Ethernet module E1756 ENBT, but the module ENBT is lower version. IP address we type we select the private network. '11. Next is module definition. The revision, the direct connection, and the time sync connection. And next is slot. I select slot 1. If we already have the local Ethernet module, then add a remote Ethernet IP module. So we done for the local. Find the network for the module in I/O configuration folder in the controller organizer. Right-click the network and click New Module. Step 2. Search for the module 1756 and EN2T. Double-click the module you want and create. Type a name for the modules. Step 5. Click the type of Ethernet address the module will use and fulfill it. I will let the name first, Ethernet 2. Ethernet 2 EN2T. I will let the IP 11. No, 12. Step 6. Do all the module definition settings match the one you decide to use? Here. If no, then click Change. Click the setting you want to change and then click the setting you want. Okay. If yes, then continue with the next step. Step 8. From the slot drop-down list, select the slot number the module is in. I select is slot 2. Step 9. Click OK. Next is adding ControlNet modules to an I/O configuration. Now I show you how to add a local or remote ControlNet brick modules to a project and configure the module for communication offline. Please take note, the ControlNet module node address must already be assigned using the dialog on the module. Step 1. Decide if you need a rack optimized connection. If the module is in the remote chassis and the chassis has standard digital input and output modules, no diagnostic modules, or mostly few output modules, and you are adding the chassis to an Ethernet IP network or ControlNet network, while the controller is not running, then we need the setting in the rack connection is rack optimization. If the condition of remote chassis, the chassis has standard module but ControlNet network, while the controller is running, then we will not set in the rack optimization. If the module is in the remote chassis and the chassis has analog modules, diagnostic digital modules, few output modules, or multiple communication modules, then we don't need the rack optimization. If the module is in the local chassis, we don't need rack optimization. Step 2. If the module is in a remote chassis, add the local and remote communication modules to the I/O configuration. Step 3. Add a new module by choosing the appropriate option. To add a module in a local chassis, then in the controller organizer, right-click the I/O configuration folder and then select new module. To add a module in a remote chassis, then in the controller organizer, right-click the ControlNet module in the local chassis and then select the new module. For example, I insert a module ControlNet brick E1756 CNP. After step 4, after insert new module, in the name box, type a name for the module. Up to 40 characters include letters, numbers, or underscore. For example, we ControlNet 1. In the description box, type a description for the modules up to 128 characters. ControlNet 1. Select the revision and electronic key-in options you identify in step 2. In the slot spin box, select the slot number of the modules. Okay, we select the slot 2. And in the ControlNet node, I will select number 1. In the node spin box, the ControlNet node of the module add display on the module LED. And finally, click on OK. Next is adding a controller to an I/O configuration. Add a controller to the I/O configuration of project so both controllers can share their data. Before you add your controller, you need to clear some points here. Step 1. Either controller in a local chassis or a remote distributed chassis. If local, go to step after next step, it means step 3. If remote, continue with the next step. Step 2. Add the local and remote communication modules for the network already in the controller I/O configuration. If no, stop, configure the communication modules and then return here. If yes, continue with the next step. Step 3. Decide how to add the controller. If the controller is installed and you are on site, browse for controller. If the controller is not installed or you are offsite, manual add a controller. In this video, I will share you how to manually add a controller. Step 1. Find the drawing or specification that gives you this information for the controller. Location, catalog number, revision. Step 2. Is the controller in the local or remote chassis? If local, in the controller organizer, right-click the local backplane and select New Modules. If remote, in the controller organizer, right-click Remote Backplane and select New Modules. In this video, I will add a controller on local backplane. Step 3. Right-click on backplane and add New Modules. Type the model of controller we need to add in the searching box. For example, L82E. Step 4. Click the controller you want and then click Create. Step 5. Type a name for controller, example sub-process PLC. Step 6. Type or select the controller's slot number. We will select the number 3. Step 7. If you are offline, clear the Open Module Property checkbox. Now in this version we don't have that function. Step 5. Step 9. Click on OK. Okay, so that's done for 2 video introduce about Studio 5000 Logix Designer. See you in the next video.